The day has finally arrived. For those of you who don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, and if you've seen the trailer, then you know goddamn well what's going on, cause today the big fucking fantasy film fest starts with 55 movies, of which we will be reviewing over 30 in the big 4-episode special. Yay. Yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yeah, that's going to happen. And we are truly excited because there's just so many movies that we're going to be watching. Just let me name you just a couple of the quickies you guys will be getting in the next 2 weeks. We will have It, we have Tragedy Girls, we have Raw, we have Blade of the Immortal, we have 47 Meters Down, we have KUSO, we have It Comes at Night, we have The Autopsy of Jane Doe, we have MFA, we have It Came from the Desert, 68 Kill, Bad Match, Hounds of Love, The Vault, Crucifixion, Reset, Memoirs of a Murderer, Jungle, Veronica, Mayhem, Psychopaths, Colossal, Bitch, Game of Death, Killing Ground, Have a Nice Day, My Friend Dahmer. Hello everybody and welcome to the Movie Void, where we review whatever the fuck we want to review. And it's starting today, and I'm going to keep going because, as you might have guessed, I'm late once again. But just let me tell you this, for any of you guys who haven't seen the previous episodes, this is the biggest genre film festival we have in Germany. This is we get all the horror films, we get all types of thrillers, sci-fi shit, fantasy shit, all kinds of stuff. All the non-blockbustery motherfuckers, except for a few blockbusters tend to sneak in there every once in a while. And this is the 31st, it's huge, and you guys are watching the first episode of this huge fucking special. And today, we will be seeing It first. Yes, the It. That everybody is so fucking hyped about. And my expectations are like this, because I have heard so much about this film. All this good shit. And I don't know if it can hold up to that, because you guys out there on the internet who have seen it already, you've gotten me so hyped up that I'm almost scared that I can only be disappointed the way things are. But nevertheless, I am not going to be too critical. I'm just scared of 3 things. One, that it isn't as genuinely scary as everybody else says it is. Because some say it's solely terrifying, and some say it's not that scary at all. And so I'm thinking the gorehound in me will probably be like, okay, this wasn't that scary. And my second fear is that the CGI will just be way too much, and it'll be there will be such a humongous use of CGI that everything will look fake and stupid. That's my second fear. And my third fear is those fucking jump scares everybody does recently. I can't see them anymore. The second a scary film starts using jump scares to get their suspense along, it already can't be a 9 or a 10 for me anymore. Then it's just a little bitch. Well, with all that said, let's go off to the city and grab our fucking tickets, cause It's fucking Fantasy Film Fest time. Jeez. I wonder how I'm going to look like when all of this is over.
So here we are. I got myself my thing. Yay. Which will be following me over the next 10 days. And it's pretty sold out if you want to take a look during the It premiere. It is incredibly. It's like this isn't even 30 minutes before the movie's supposed to start. It looks like this. Well, things are going to get cracking now. I hope this is as good as people say it is. I was a fan of the first one, but I thought they could have done more with the book. Because the book was much darker and meaner, and I liked it that way. But let's see how this is going to be.
Hello there. I am so looking forward to this movie. How are you doing? Have you seen it yet? Yeah, you did? Good. Good. That's good for you.
Okay, we're back here. We're not going to be here very often the next couple of days, so I thought, why not do it right in the comfort of my own home? Anyway, so let's talk about it. On a side note, if you are not familiar with the TV miniseries or Stephen King's novel, then you shouldn't watch this because it's just going to be a bunch of spoilers for you or it's not going to make sense. Just make sure you know something so I can dive right into the whole entire thing. This movie has been getting a lot of love and also a lot of hate. And I gotta tell you, the people hating on this movie are either complete dicks or have expected something completely different. Have different expectations of what Stephen King's story was supposed to be. I personally think with it we have a new classic on our hands. This is a film that will go down in history with the likes of films like The Shining or Psycho or Silence of the Lambs and so on and so on. This is already an absolute classic.
Hold up. Yo, what did my boy just say? Can somebody please rewind that?
First of all, and this is something everybody has already said, the casting is absolutely spectacular. Like, what the kids do is just amazing. I've never seen such wonderful child actors. Everybody did their part perfectly, which also totally blends into the wonderful dialogue that doesn't shy away from profanity, because kids, let's be honest, kids use profanity. I mean, when we're kids, we learn all the dirty words. Some of us still use it as adults and some of us don't. It makes the characters very real, and generally the character establishment is just incredible in this movie. I was really scared of shitty CGI terrorizing the whole thing, but it was used totally perfectly. And what I think most people were bothered by with the CGI was towards the end, when we get to see its lair. All the floating kids, if you know what I mean. I don't think it looked stupid. It gave the whole entire thing this fairy tale-y atmosphere. And this is what I have to add in. A lot of people are also complaining that it isn't genuinely scary, and I have to agree. It is not that scary. I mean, if you're not used to a lot of things, it will probably scare the living daylights out of you. But if you're like a gorehound and are used to horror movies like I am, it won't really send shivers down your spine at all. I don't think it was aiming to be naturally scary, but to be visually intense, which it was, and that adds to the suspense. The film in general, I like to describe the film generally as a coming-of-age fairy tale. Because it is not really out for scares. Its main job isn't to scare you. It's not what the movie sets out to do. Stephen King, I don't think, really set out to do that either. It is a story about standing up for yourself, standing up for your friends, and not being afraid. All these kids come from broken homes, and it is
an evil thing.
Giving people the message who also come from broken homes to be bigger than that where they came from, to stand up for what they believe in, to stand up for their character and not let themselves be bullied around. May it be some stupid ass bullies, or may it be their parents or anybody else. That's what it is trying to convey. That's its main mission, not to scare the living daylights out of you, as some would say. Which brings me to another thing. As a big nostalgia critic fan, and as generally a fan of Channel Awesome and Doug Walker stuff, I couldn't help but watch the latest sibling rivalry episode where Doug and Rob discussed this film, and Rob actually raised a very interesting question here.
All it is just like, let's answer the question, what if Stand By Me had a killer clown? Like that, whenever I think of it, that's the first thing I think. It's like, here's this interesting Stand By Me story with a whole bunch of drama about bullying and sexual abuse and getting over the death of your parents and missing kids. Yeah, and then killer clown. They don't go together.
No.
They really don't. No. And the movie's got the same problem.
Let's get it right. If it was a killer clown, that'd be one thing. It's a killer clown that can also turn into a mummy, a werewolf, a giant spider.
So what is with the killer clown? Well, I thought about this a long time, and I personally think, especially when you're a kid, we carry these demons inside ourselves, teenage angst. When the problems that we have to deal with become so big that we can't really handle them ourselves. It is like the embodiment of these problems. When these problems are just too much to handle, they're that dark depression, the badass Hannah Baker feelings that get you down. I think in King's head, it is supposed to symbolize just that. It is the monster that feeds on your fear, that puts you down as a person. And since its biggest enemy is not being afraid, which this version really showed very well, I think it is like a symbolism. The killer clown is a symbolism for depression and fear itself. I'm very glad that all of that part 2 is also going to be done by the exact same team that worked on this one. So I'm looking forward to that. Oh yes, and what else worked totally well was moving the 50s to the 80s. Because, you know, when the book came out, the 50s were 30 years ago. When this film came out now, the 80s were 30 years ago. And this also gave the film a chance to create a beautiful soundtrack. We have The Cure on this, we have The Cult on this, we even have New Kids on the Block on this several times. Well, the only part where the effects didn't work at all was that scene with the projector that reminded you a little of The Ring. People who've seen it will know exactly what I'm talking about. The movie almost went straight into obscurity and ridiculousness at that part. Comparing to the 1990s TV miniseries, I sadly have to say, this one's going to really put the 90s version into old school history the same way John Carpenter's Thing did, it's just going to get lost in the past. So that's it for you. And if you don't agree with me, you can go suck your dad, you mullet-wearing asshole. Yeah. No, generally, this is a little masterpiece. It's going to be a classic in the future. Don't listen to the haters, because they either don't have a clue about what King was going for, or are just being fucking trolls.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style.
Good morning, everyone. Day 2 has emerged. Today is the first bigger day. We are going to be watching Snowflake, Tragedy Girls, and Raw. See you at the movies. I'm late already. Don't ask.
Ooh, we have a special snowflake!
Hi everyone, this is me from the future. The sound and video quality of the review we had for Snowflake originally was just so shitty, and the movie is so good that I just thought I record everything word for word I said back in that review so you have it in a good, better quality quickly.
I just saw Snowflake, and it was pretty dank.
So here goes. It's pretty much a miracle that such a good movie comes from Germany, because usually German films aren't this original and innovative and creative. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, they're actually pretty awful usually. That has several reasons. In Germany, TV productions and film companies don't really take as many risks as they do overseas. And the reason for that is that the money is very limited. So the thing is, they always look at a TV show or a film that worked in some way internationally or in another country and just imitate that. And Snowflake does not do that at all. And that is something that I really respect here, because it is such a non-German way of making movies. However, one has to admit that the story is a little inspired by Tarantino, because it is told in a different chronological order and very often divided in chapters. Strange enough, however, the film does remind me a little bit of an episode of Supernatural. It is the episode Season 4, Episode 18, The Monster at the End of the Book. Sam and Dean meet this guy, a writer called Chuck, who has been writing a lot of books, and suddenly they figure out that they are the main characters in these books, and that everything that is written down in these books is actually happening in real life. And it takes this idea and turns it into a thing of its own. The film takes place in a dystopian Berlin. You don't know if it is this time or somewhere in the near future, but Berlin is complete chaos. And we have these two gangsters who steal a car, and they find this script in the back of that stolen car. And in the script, they read their entire life, what is going to happen, and so on and so on. But here's a fun fact for you guys. Yesterday I was actually chatting with the screenwriter of this film, and I asked him if he was inspired by that Supernatural episode.
Here's where it gets crazy.
He says that he never saw Supernatural in his life, and that the main ideas for this movie were from Adaptation, The Neverending Story, Dogma, Stranger Than Fiction, and Spaceballs. This situation with the script really gives the screenwriters a chance to explore new jokes that don't really usually, that you don't really know from regular movies. It's this totally new level of comedy, and they know how to use it really well. While we have this premise going on also, we have a girl who wants to kill the two because they had accidentally killed her father in the past and she wants to take revenge. Generally, the dialogue is so beautifully crafted in this film, and you have such creative, interesting, original characters. There's even cannibals, and a guy who thinks he's God, and a superhero called Hyper Electric Man. It is just fucking crazy. I'm also usually not a fan of open endings, but this open ending is crafted so perfectly that I would actually say it is the only good way to end this film. So if you're ever in the mood of checking out a German film, this is probably the best thing you can do. This is like really, maybe, definitely in the top 5 of the best German films I've ever seen, and definitely the best German film the Fantasy Film Fest has ever shown. Like, in the 8 years I've been going to the Fantasy Film Fest, there's not been a single German film by far. This is like hands down with such good quality. So really, really, really be sure to check out Snowflake. It's one of the best entries of the festival.
Okay guys, so my iPad got broke and now I won't be using it for a while.
I just saw Tragedy Girls, and Tragedy Girls was exactly my jam. Like, it couldn't have been more jam than it was. It was absolutely brilliant. It is a film in the tradition of movies like Jawbreaker or Idle Hands or Heathers. You have these two beautiful girls wanting to become serial killers. And to do that, they kidnap a real serial killer, first of all. But at the same time, they want to keep this vlog going where they talk about the murderers that are committing in the town, which are of course committed by them, but nobody knows that. And this vlog is called Tragedy Girls. The humor in this film is simply off the wall. It also follows the message that nothing's bigger than friendship. It also plays a lot with high school cliches and has the structure and the pacing of your regular traditional teeny slasher film. Only your killers in this movie are these beautifully sweet girls called the Tragedy Girls with their own little blog. What else the film does is it makes a lot of effort to quote other horror films and classics of the genre. Also a film with a marvelous soundtrack. I still have it stuck in my head. This is going to be something I will be trying to find on iTunes tomorrow, that's for sure. This is something anybody who is a fan of things like Scream Queens or, as the earlier mentioned, Jawbreaker, will totally get a kick of this. This is like a new classic in the wonderful world of teeny horror, and already a genre and festival favorite on my part. So really, really, really be sure to check out the Tragedy Girls. It is absolutely mesmerizing. Did I mention that there's this political vote going on in Germany at the moment? And this is one of the posters, and I gotta say, this looks more like an invitation to a funeral than a flyer that's supposed to inspire somebody to vote for somebody.
It's Raw!
So Raw. Raw is a very fucked up film. Don't get me wrong, it is incredibly good. It is a really good, but very fucked up film. It is about a girl who goes to college and as in like all sorts of dorms and sororities and frat houses, has to go through all these different tests like This one from Dazed and Confused, for example. Well, she has to do all this sick, weird shit, and one of them is that she has to eat a rabbit's kidney. A raw rabbit's kidney, to be precise. And she's a vegetarian, so that grosses her out, like, to the core. But she does it anyway, and starts having this rash first, and then develops this urge to eat raw meat, and that turns into a hunger for human flesh suddenly. The film plays a lot with its pacing. It moves very slow, which pretty much helps the character development very well. And generally you can totally notice how she evolves slowly from this peaceful vegetarian girl to this flesh-eating monster. Our main character is also very identifiable because they make her very real. They show her flaws. They show that she's not like your average typical girl, and that makes her very identifiable, and one can grasp her character very easily. The cinematography in the film is held in this very rainy day color, like a lot of bluish white, and some very screwed up party scenes. The film manages to squeeze in sort of a fucked up love story and also sort of a fucked up coming of age story. Everything about this film is totally fucked up. It is definitely a good movie, and you should definitely check it out because it's unlike anything I've ever seen, really. It's honestly unique in its own way. Although, even though it's very good, I wouldn't count it in the category of the French classics like Martyrs or High Tension or Inside, for that matter. But still, it is very good in what it does. The film totally lives off of its gross out moments, and because the pacing is so slow and the whole entire environment feels very realistic, the gross out moments honestly eat you up. But I have to say, you have to be awake and fit when you see this movie because of its slow pacing. If you're watching this when you're drunk or very tired, you will fall asleep very soon and won't be able to follow it because it moves really, really slow. But its slow pacing is sort of what makes it so real and makes it so identifiable. The only thing that feels a little unrealistic is how this college is presented because, I mean, come on. They have these horses that run on these moving platforms. It's a little ridiculous, but that's pretty much all it does wrong. So this is actually very good. So be sure to check it out.
Distance from the center to any point on the circle is called the radius.
You know those movies that don't really have a big budget and don't really have any names in the cast, but they still manage to just pull it off. With almost no means, create this amazing little thing. Well, Radius is one of those movies. Radius is pretty insane.
Some people call me insane. I beg to differ.
This guy, he wakes up in the middle of a field and he notices everything around him is dead. A person is dead, a couple of birds are dead, things are dead.
Finn! Oh my god, man, everyone's dead, man! They're all burned! There's barbecue pots everywhere! What?
And he calls the cops, but while he's calling the cops, he realizes he doesn't even remember his own name. And this is when shit gets really crazy. Because afterwards, he meets this girl, And she also has amnesia and doesn't remember anything that's going on.
Oh man, I have no idea what's going on right now.
And they somehow discover that when he is alone, everything in a certain radius around him dies. Everything circling him, every living creature. But when the girl is with him, everything stays alive. And the concept is just absolutely brilliant. You have this great concept, you have a great script, you have a cinematography that works for a low budget, isn't perfect whatsoever. It keeps that rainy day, white bluish cinematography going, similar to Raw when it comes to the cinematography. And at night, sometimes the lighting is a little too bright, and you notice, like, there's artificial lighting coming, but otherwise, it was great. Okay, one other thing. Our main character's acting, Diego Klattenhoff, is not really that great. It's okay, it's bearable, but at times he is totally stale and unemotional and not really conveying anything at all, like, as an actor, just delivering the dialogue, and he's sort of like this retarded Mark Wahlberg, or Mark Wahlberg in The Happening.
What? No.
His counterpart, Charlotte Sullivan, playing the girl that's keeping everybody else alive around him, she does a great job. And it's totally insane. This is a very, very twisted storyline. It's one of those movies that, like, you start watching, and that feeling you have in the beginning when you start a movie, what the fuck is going to happen? Like, when you watch a movie, the first thing you think is, what is going to happen here? They keep that feeling of what is going to happen going until the end. Usually a movie, like, creates a certain universe, creates these certain rules, creates these certain plot lines that it generally can only go in that direction. This movie doesn't do that at all. You have absolutely no idea what is going to happen at any given moment. And that keeps the spirit of this movie so alive. Another thing is the ending. The ending is just so tragically beautiful. You don't expect it to play out that way, and when it actually does, it just hits you and breaks your heart a little bit because it is so tragically beautiful. So really, this is a little underground gem waiting to get noticed. This is a wonderful little piece. I liked it a lot more than Raw. Just for your info, even though Raw is a great movie, this one is better. And it's under a lot smaller budget than Raw is. This is the director's second movie, and the other movie is called Sans Dessin, some French thing, and it hasn't really been released properly. And this is a great little piece. The people behind this should really keep going. This is incredible. Like, really check this out. Support this little film. It's really good. So, this was the first real day. Officially, day number 2. I am exhausted. I was actually planning to do some editing today, but no way. No way. I am dead as fuck. Hope I'm a little fitter in the next couple of days. It's so far, it has been such a good fantasy film fest year. If they keep it up like this is going to be their best year ever. So, let's hope it stays this way, because we are getting one soon-to-be classic thrown after the other one. So, let's hope it stays that way. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Till then. Okay, here we start day 2. Oh, today we have some very crazy highlights. Like 47 meters down, or what's it called again? Yeah. Like 47 meters down, or Super Dark Times. Also, a little strange, I think Dutch or Norwegish vampire flick called VIDAR the Vampire.
Well, you know, like I'm like everybody else here. I'm not a vampire.
And of course, the very artsy film KUSO. I'm late as fuck again.
Back in action, starting day 2 with VIDAR the Vampire. Okay, I just saw VIDAR the Vampire, and that sucked some serious ass. Where do I begin? Everything in this movie pretty much goes horribly wrong. It's a shame that this movie was shot in 6 years on a $50,000 budget. No, 50,000. 50 million. No, I said 50,000. I said 50,000. Not like 50 million. I mean, like, that's like... Yeah, but nah, it's 50,000. It tries really hard to be funny and fails on every occasion it does so, like, horrifically, terribly. It works with these vampire cliches that have been used and overused many, many times. It just doesn't hit you. It doesn't come up with anything new. It keeps bringing these old cliches and really nothing new to the table. The subplot about VIDAR telling his entire story to a psychiatrist also seems overdone. It's something that works in a cartoon like, let's say, South Park or Family Guy, but in the 90s or early 2000s, even the whole entire psychiatrist bit feels old. It feels like it's been done 50 million times, and like everything about this movie, it's like the Norwegians have been living under a rock and have discovered this type of film and this type of humor for the first time and don't really know how to work with it. Our lead actor doesn't really do a good job. He seems unmotivated. And when he seems motivated, his performances are so overacted that Tommy Wiseau's acting in The Room seems like complete genius compared to this. And this was just like such a letdown on every level. The ending was absolutely too abrupt. You didn't really weren't able to process this. And this is the first movie that didn't really do anything for me at all at this festival. So if you're going to avoid something in this list of movies, avoid this one. It really isn't that good.
VIDAR's fugly.
Yeah, VIDAR is definitely fugly.
Aren't you afraid of the great white shark?
So, I just saw 47 meters down, and it was fucking badass, I have to say. It's a film by Johannes Roberts, starring Mandy Moore and Claire Holt in the lead. And it is about two girls going scuba diving in a little cage to watch some sharks in the water, which they do, but all of a sudden the string up there breaks and they are stuck in the bottom of the ocean, 47 meters, and they have to survive and wait till help comes and gets them out of here. The great thing about this movie, which makes it much more unique than your average shark film, is that 80% of it is really shot underwater. Like, you don't see hardly any outside shots or interior shots. It's mostly all underwater. Another thing that is really cool about this film is that it works with realistic things that happen underwater, like with the problem of pressure, of not being able to survive the pressure under such great depths. It also works with things like air missing. It also works with something called the rapture of the deep, which is the fact is that if you, I don't know how it happens exactly, I missed it a little, but that you start having hallucinations when you're underwater and not getting enough air. And it plays with all these key factors so well that it uses them as plot devices to keep the suspense of the film running. And that is something that is really amazing, because the fact that it all really takes place underwater. They're still mostly either in the cage or somewhere around the cage, and using these factors as plot devices keeps the suspense of the movie running throughout. This is one of those films where you're actually in a small space and there's not a lot going on around you, but the suspense keeps it going, like throughout the whole entire thing. You're on the edge of the seat. The person beside me was literally freaking out because they couldn't handle what was going on in the film. It was that insane and that suspenseful. So, if you're looking for a new type of shark film that doesn't really compare to your classic Into the Deep, the Hallows type of films, this is pretty much for you. And maybe, I don't know too much about underwater life and just how realistic things are. I'd have to do my math and do my research to see if everything that happened in the film really made sense. But as plot devices, as film devices, this all worked very well, and it honestly made the film happen and be what it is. And the acting is okay. I wouldn't say it was like a revolutionary thing. You know, Mandy Moore's acting, it's sometimes all right, sometimes it's a little stale. But the thing is, the dialogue is a little uncreative, because most of the time they're saying, breathe, do what I told you to do before. Oh my God, I'm so scared. Oh, help is on its way. You know, those typical cliche lines people say to calm the other people, to calm somebody down who is stuck underwater. Yeah, you get a lot of those. That is pretty much most of the dialogue that you get in this film. But I mean, what the fuck are they supposed to do? I mean, you're not really going to be, when you're underwater, you're not really going to be sitting there going, yes, I'm missing my afternoon tea at the moment. What? I hope Joffrey has bought those cookies so we can have the cookies when we're back home. No, nobody talks like that when they're underwater. So it's pretty I'm a little hair splitting and being a little shitty, complaining about the dialogue not being creative enough. So I'm just saying, just putting it out there. The dialogue is nothing exceptional, but what else would you expect in a movie like this? Oh, the ending. The ending is something so screwed up, and if you pay very close attention to the things going on in the film, you might actually have a clue of what will happen in the end when the twist sets in. You suspect it. You suspect it all the time, but telling you more about this will push the spoiler bar even higher than it already has, so I'm going to shut up. But really, 47 Meters Down is a unique, fresh, new entry in the shark attacks genre.
47 meters down.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Cripple, but I just can't feel too bad for you right now, because I'm feeling so insanely stupid that even the fact that you can't walk can't bring me down.
Super dark times. Well, I gotta admit, after seeing the trailer, I was really expecting a lot more from this one. But it was an alright film. It really, it was good, but, barely still good. It wasn't, the most amazing shit I've ever seen in my life, but it does still qualify as a good movie. The thing is, like, you honestly are starting to notice by the movies that are coming out these days, like with it also, that Stranger Things certainly had an impact on the film world, because we are getting a lot, and I mean a lot, of coming-of-age stories going on here. And this was also one of them, a little coming-of-age horror story. It is about 4 friends who live a regular teenage life, and then, in the end, something terrible happens while they're just kidding around. And the dialogue, especially in the beginning and in the middle, really are good. Everything about the movie is generally good until we get to the end. The further the movie progresses, the less of quality remains in comparison to the beginning. The thing is, like, even though the dialogue is really good and the characters are well written, you don't understand their motivations at all sometimes. Why is our main character such a paranoid little pussy? Why does his friend do what he does? I don't want to give away any spoilers, but that's the thing, like, there's just things characters in this film do that don't make any sense at all. It's just like, you ask yourself, why is this person acting this way? Why is this person doing this? And why is this person doing that? Like, some elaboration and some more conversations about the actual problems in the movie would have brought the movie some more sense and also some more quality if we went that way. Generally, when we look at the technical things, like the photography and the cinematography generally is very well done. Again, a very rainy day-ish lighting going on throughout the entire film. I was really like a little lost. The question was like all the time, why? And the thing is, it felt like the screenwriters of this film had a wonderful idea, wrote the beginning well, started the middle good, and then just lost interest in their story. And it somehow feels like that all of a sudden they wanted to get the script done as fast as it could, and in the end they just didn't feel like it anymore, or they had to get their story done in time, and they just like dropped it and said, hey, we're gonna like finish up this movie quickly so we have a quick release. And that's a little why I am so disappointed. This movie could have been so nice. That would be super dark times for you. Check it out if you feel like it, but you don't have to. It's really an alright movie, but nothing special.
And there's still some space in the toilet, but I don't want it to overflow. So I've been using a bucket. When the bucket is full of pee and poop, it's really hard to lift it. So I just put it in a smaller bucket. And I take it outside and empty it.
Yeah. This is the start of day 3. And the end of part 1 of this huge Fantasy Film Fest special. I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves, because I certainly am. It is just a little exhausting, a little stressy, cutting all of this together in time. I'd like to also remind you guys that most of these reviews happen exactly after I have seen the film, so mostly not even 5 minutes pass by before I talk about it, so they are a little rougher than the usual reviews I do, but I hope you can bear with me here. Yeah, we've had certainly some great films thrown at us. to end this episode, I was thinking of doing a little summary. The thing is, I have stopped giving movies rating numbers because I don't like reducing a movie to a number. Because it just like all of a sudden makes everything I said about it unnecessary, and you just people just orientate themselves around a certain number, and I don't think that's really what movies are about. Good! I think the next episode is going to start with this exact scene. I'm just going to press the off button and say, this was the Movie Void, you will see me when you see me, and in real life it is right away, but you guys are probably gonna have to wait 2-3 days till the other reviews are edited and shit. So till then, I'm not gonna walk away.
We're breaking promises with all we could keep. We trigger avalanches unknowingly. We're traveling and now we take off, we land. We're living airports like we don't have a plan. This is a journey and we call it home. And when it stops we're feeling miserable.
Yeah, VIDAR is definitely fugly.